Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. I don't know where you are, wherever you are. I hope you're having a great day. It's Katie from Without a Crystal Ball. Some of you have asked for some content that comes more related to what I do on a daily basis at Pathios. What I do here is a lot different because YouTube is kind of weird about the stuff that I write about, and they don't like to YouTube just doesn't like the type of stuff I write about, let's just say. They don't like, it's not YouTube advertiser friendly. So I'm going to have to get a little bit unique in how I discuss this topic because this is one that typically gets pegged. So let's start with the beginning. Ethan Lindenberger, if you remember, if you don't know, I will tell you, is a young boy or young man from Ohio. If you follow the news, if you're into health related news, if you're just really into current events, he was a trending topic for a long time because he made a really bold decision as a senior in high school to defy what his mother's wishes were and to receive immunizations after being raised without them his entire life. His mother was skeptical of anything related to medicine and had decided that she wasn't going to give any of her kids shots at all during their lives and was convinced that there was a link to autism along with other issues with them. Now, Ethan was grew up in a family with 7 siblings. His parents were divorced when he made this decision, and when he was a senior, he was getting ready for school, wanted to get involved with some activities. He found out at school that if he didn't have these specific current immunizations, he wouldn't be able to participate. And so he decided through some research and by his time working in a debate club that he needed to research and understand both sides of this tale to figure out what was right for him and whether or not his mom was giving him the right information. And after a while, after talking to doctors, after discussing this with teachers and people at school, he learned that what he had learned growing up wasn't actually true, and he made the choice to go ahead and make an appointment to get his shots. This actually got picked up because he made a comment in a Reddit post asking Reddit users for help on what he should do, how he goes about getting them, where he would go, how does he pay for them. And it actually got picked up by a smaller outlet and then featured by the Washington Post. After the Washington Post featured his story, it went viral and he was everywhere. And I mean everywhere. Yes, his mother was. Ethan actually was asked to speak before a Senate committee, which talked about different misinformation related to these nasty little buggers. And he testified and shared his side of the story and related to what his mom believed, where his mom got the information, how she came to these conclusions, that kind of stuff. He was invited to speak before the UN. He's been featured on the Today Show. He was interviewed by NBC News, CBS, ABC, Good Morning America. Everybody has pretty much spoken to him. And if you are familiar with me, I have written extensively about him, as well as I had the opportunity to interview him, which was phenomenal, and have developed a relationship and a friendship with him because he's just a kid, you guys, that's trying to do what's right. And earlier this year, actually in May, I had the May or June, I had the opportunity of interviewing him. I actually have a stream, if you check my archives, of him on the show. He talked a lot about what it was like to grow up, what he learned, what he didn't learn, how he got to where he was. And he also shared very poignantly the divide that this was creating in his family. Now, this was something that I noticed very quickly when I was monitoring this family and sort of seeing what was going on, because as much as the media was sort of praising and kind of putting Ethan in front of everyone as sort of the poster boy for a child that, makes a decision that is completely against the belief system of a family. Because when you believe what his mom believes, this is not just a like something you think. It actually encompasses their whole lives. It goes down to how well and how much the kids go to the doctor, what kind of treatments she gives them, whether or not they take medicine. So it's not just something that if you go against this, you're really, gonna have a mom that's like, yay. In fact, it actually created a huge divide in their relationship, and ultimately resulted in Ethan moving out of his home and moving in with his father. And that never got better, because his mother Jill got angry at the attention that he was getting and felt like the media was portraying her as a bad mother. And so she went on her own campaign of defending herself. Unfortunately, she defended herself at the expense of slamming her son and making really not so kind statements about him. She was featured on a lot of very questionable podcasts and YouTube channels, and she along with Jill, along with his older brother Isaac, who we're going to talk about in a second, hobnobbed with the likes of Del Bigtree and Larry Cook, who are really big in this world that push conspiracies that are simply not true. And unfortunately, Isaac was a huge part of this, and he started defaming his brother. Jill was defaming her son. Their relationship became so tenuous that they stopped talking for quite some time, and it ultimately fractured the family. It's amazing how a child making a decision to do something for himself, or a young man making a choice to do something for what he believes is the right choice for him, along with his siblings and the public health, in the interest of public health, can be completely iced out by his family. But that's exactly what happened. And so Isaac, along with Jill, went on this sort of media campaign where they trashed him, and they were very... Isaac called him out on multiple shows on Facebook. He taunted him on Twitter. He told him that he was going against everything that they had grown up with and believed, and he was defying his mother, and how could he do this, and how could he not espouse the beliefs that he had. And everything really got amplified after he was testified before the Senate committee. And at this point, is shortly after his Senate committee testimony is when I actually had the opportunity to meet Ethan. And he oddly reached out to me, which was insane. Like I would never really know who is going to read what I write, but I had been kind of critical of the way that his mother was treating him, and I thought it was unfair for a mother to sort of tarnish and sort of trash a child for just sort of exerting their independence and wanting to do something for themselves that wasn't necessarily like a bad thing, but more something that was going to be helpful for him and allow him to go to college without having any exclusions. And that's really what his motivation was. His mother, Ethan is an adult, he's 18, and Ethan will be starting college here in a couple weeks. So Ethan has been, he's been super cool. I had him on the show. I interviewed him. I wrote an article about him. He did a couple debates on the Non Sequitur channel before it changed courses. He's an extremely intelligent, well-read kid. Very thoughtful, very humble, very easy-going. Seemed to have a lot of really good people around him at the time, and some things of those have changed. But late last night, his brother made a startling turn of events, and after months and months and months of sort of defaming him and sort of calling his little brother out, Isaac completely changed courses and said that he no longer believes what he once believed. And as of this coming Friday, he will be fully up to date on all of his immunizations. And he said that after looking at research and reading evidence and reading studies and digging through tons of information, he realized that he was wrong in what he believed, and he realized he had to do these things. He said he'll be starting he'll be going to Ohio State University in a couple weeks, and he could have applied for an exemption, but he decided that he didn't want to apply for an exemption. And instead, he said he's going to go ahead and get everything up to date. And he said he actually publicly came out against people that choose not to. and said that they're not bad people. They're just misguided. They're just misinformed. There's a lot of really bad information out there, which is true. Lots and lots of misinformation related to this. And so he said that he made the choice. He hopes others will make it too. He admits that he was wrong. He also admits that the family exposure related to this really propelled him in a direction that he didn't anticipate going. He said that he kind of got swooped up into the energy that the media created around the story, and he took a stance without fully comprehending what he was getting involved in. And by the time the dust settled, he realized he had made a mistake and decided that he was wrong, which is actually a pretty novel thing if you think about it. Obviously, when I saw this by Isaac, I reached out to Ethan this afternoon and I asked him if this was actually real, and Ethan confirmed that this really is what his brother is doing. Ethan said that he had no part in it. He didn't egg him on. He didn't taunt him. He didn't do anything really. He just said his brother seems to have come to this conclusion by himself. He said it surprises him, but at the same time, he said no matter what it took for him to get there, he's happy and he's like grateful that his brother is going to be doing these things. He said that he doesn't know whether or not it's a genuine decision or if it's more just for his brother to maybe get more notoriety and attention. But he said no matter what his motives are in this, as long as he is doing what he feels is right, and him making a public sort of proclamation about this, he's glad. And he said maybe that this will, being that he's had so many people that have been on the opposite side of it, right? Maybe it will sway other people too. I asked Ethan, if he had any sort of influence on it. And, he said that he tries to be very passive with his family in regards to what their choices are, but tells them to research, provides them resources if they want it. And, said that he hopes that maybe something that he said had something to do with this, but ultimately he can't really say. So, I guess things can happen. People can change their minds. In a sea of misinformation, it is important to remember that there's a lot of bad information out there. And unfortunately, sometimes that bad information becomes sort of public fodder and people start fighting over it. And then you have celebrities that support it and tell you that it's wrong. You've got senators that are misguided. You have people that are deep into conspiracies believing it. And unfortunately, it creates a divide in the community where people are misled by people that are selling other products, because almost every single person that pushes that they're not good for you is selling you something that will do something that they say is equivalent but with less side effects. But ultimately, the science has proven that they are safe, they are effective, they aren't going to do any harm to you. Very rarely will they ever do anything that's going to be harmful. There's zero link between these and autism. It's been proven through over 120 studies. So it's kind of exciting to see that change can happen and people can change their minds. And I'll be interested to see what happens as more children grow up that have not had whose parents have made similar choices, to see what they'll do as adults. Stuff that we never used to have is back and it's been raging. And so, seeing that people can change their minds is actually kind of a good thing. So, then I just wanted to sort of check in with Ethan and say, like, well, how is everything else going? And, he said that he's doing well. But the crazy thing, you guys, is his mother moved away. He said his mom moved from Ohio to Texas. And she left to be closer to her family and in seek of employment. She took his siblings with her, but partly because she couldn't shake the community viewing her as a bad mother. And I don't think anyone would say like, you're a bad mom. Maybe the way that she handled it wasn't the best, but running with her kids makes you kind of sad for Ethan and the other siblings that are older that stayed. He said all of his younger siblings went with her, and he said he doesn't even really talk to her anymore. And it's kind of sad to think that all of this kind of started with just a simple question on Reddit, and then it going from there and getting completely blown up. You'll never really know how a family who doesn't have any sort of experience with the media and how they'll react. And especially if there's any level of dysfunction in the family, that will get exposed almost immediately. And I saw this happening months and months and months ago. And so to get that update from him was very sad to me. But at the same time, he has a lot of good things going on in his life. He'll be starting college in a couple weeks. And, you know, as long as he was able to come to a decision that he felt was best for him, and his brother comes to a decision that he feels is best for him, perhaps the two of them can sort of meet in the middle and maybe mend fences. It's sad to think that things like this can completely divide families, and it's all because there's a ton of really bad information out there that is polarizing people. Always trust a doctor. Do not trust a naturopath. Do not trust a chiropractor. Do not trust any of the woo crew. Pediatricians, family practice doctors, they're going to be the ones that you should talk to, and none of them are in any sort of conspiracy. All of this is for the greater good and will help you keep yourself and others safe. So that's the latest on what's going on with that family. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. I'm sure this video won't get as many views as others.